Hello Internet, I'm the Disney Brain and welcome to another edition of The Top. This week, I'm taking on my most grueling, most challenging task yet, the top 10 all-time greatest Disney Channel characters. Whether you've been watching Disney Channel for a few years or over a decade like me, one thing we can all agree on is that there's no shortage of awesome characters on this channel. So, I made the decision to split this list into two separate videos based on gender. And no, this isn't some competition, it just made sense to me since I get to highlight twice as many characters this way. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Mona Lisa and Melissa Chiwada, I hope I'm pronouncing that right by the way, who both suggested I tackle this difficult topic. With all that said, let's kick things off with the number 10 Disney Channel dude. I went back and forth between placing Joey on this list versus making him an honorable mention, but eventually, this is what I decided. The reason is because he feels like a fully realized character with a lot of the same nerdy obsessions that I had growing up, except he's not a side character like he probably would be in most other shows. He's a main character, with room to grow and develop. I'm still in catch-up mode with Liv and Maddie, so I can't be completely certain what that development looks like, but, for the most part, he's a very engaging and enjoyable character that I feel like I can relate to more than some of the lead actors who are supposed to be quote-unquote cool. Joey is decidedly not cool, and he's okay with that, and that's what I like about him. Now, this guy is the definition of cool. I'll admit, I'm a bit biased here because I love R5, his family band for those of you who don't know, so I'd already be a Ross Lynch fan even if Austin and Ally never happened. As far as Austin Moon goes, I think he's funny in a consistent way and always has his heart in the right place. His co-stars can be hit or miss at times, but Austin himself usually acquits himself rather well. Watching him hit that stage reminds me of my own performance days, so that's a big plus as well. All in all, a really solid and likable character. I understand that some people are put off by Jake's personality or the way he talks, but for me, that was never a big issue. He's a boy in high school at the end of the day, trying to be whatever his definition of cool is to attract the ladies or be popular, even though he's a bit of a goofball sometimes. And that's a pretty accurate representation of what some people actually do in high school. Just like most kids with the burden of responsibility, he can be a bit of a slacker sometimes, but he always comes through in the end. And, oh yeah, he's a dragon. If that's not epic enough for you, I don't know what is. There's not too many Disney Channel shows that feature good versus evil, but Dr. Drakken is still probably the best Disney Channel villain of all time. He's smart, but also kinda dumb, menacing, but also pretty hilarious, and is kind of this interesting mix of a bunch of famous supervillains, including an evil origin story that connects him with the possible family. His interactions with Shigo are also some of the best moments in the show, which always leave you wondering, hey, why isn't Shigo in charge? The show creators, being smart, decided, hey, that's a great question, let's make a movie out of it. Great show, great theme song, great villain. The difference between Oscar and Drakken was so very thin, but Mr. Proud won by a hair. The main thing here is that I think Oscar is actually funnier, and his interactions with Sugar Mama highlight some of the first laughs I've ever had as a Disney Channel viewer. He can be tough sometimes, but I never blame him since supporting a wife and 3 kids must be taxing, especially since his snack business doesn't seem like a real moneymaker. All of his jokes and quips seem so natural. Tommy Davidson does his voice and it feels like he was born to play this character. I could honestly watch an entire episode of him just saying things with Sugar Mama jumping in for a joke every now and then. Oscar most definitely makes his family proud.
Figure it out on the way.
For me, Gordo represents everything that Lizzie McGuire as a show and a movie does right. He's the classic example of the amazing loyal friend, but it doesn't stop there. Check out this list of traits. He's a brilliant student, a practical thinker, and fascinated by film. It's a wonder that Lizzie didn't end up with him sooner. And if you've seen the Lizzie McGuire movie, Gordo is basically a superhero. If you haven't, I won't spoil exactly what he does here, but needless to say, I gave him the old slow clap for that one. Just like Joey Rooney, I feel like I can relate to a lot of what Gordo goes through. Well, except for the being Jewish part. But if Joey represents who I used to be, more or less, I think Gordo would be more of who I am now. Not exactly, but close. Speaking of relatable characters, Justin Russo saved the entire show for me early on. Don't get me wrong, I love wizards, but I didn't always love the show like I do now. I was initially somewhat put off by Alex Russo's personality before I eventually got used to it, and then, as more time passed, actually started to gradually like her. But early on, it was all about Justin being a bit of a dork, which, of course, I can more than relate to, but also being a focused, smart, and talented wizard in training. The season finale shows that hard work does pay off, since he technically did win the family wizarding competition, by the way, totally called it, but he also ends up as the new and likely the youngest ever headmaster of WizTech. This is one of the most satisfying closing chapters I've ever seen on a Disney Channel show, and I was overjoyed for him. Although, if we want to get really technical, Alex beat Justin in the Wizards movie, so they're actually tied right now. I say rematch. Who's with me? Keeping along with the trajectory of incredibly bright individuals brings us to relative newcomer Farkle Minkus. It's no secret that I love him as a character, and it's for a lot of the same reasons that I love Gordo and Justin. You could argue that he's a bit high on this list, but I think the way they've handled his character arc, the gradual change from excitable turtleneck-wearing boy into a much different person in the more recent episodes, is pretty remarkable. So many shows would just stick to whatever quirks the character had and not change them, but Farkle not only changes, he grows up. The acting on the part of Corey Fogelmanis, along with the writing and directing from the Girl Meets World team, coupled to create an A-plus character, and I can't wait to see more from him.
We've got a sweet life.
From the very first episode of The Sweet Life, to The Sweet Life on Deck, to The Sweet Life movie, I love this character. I believe Phil Lewis to be one of the greatest acting talents that Disney Channel has ever had, and it really shows here. I found myself more invested in how he's going to clean up whatever mess the twins caused, versus enjoying whatever hijinks the twins themselves were getting into, which is weird because I was still just a kid when I started watching the show. He's got more responsibility than anyone on the show, and he wears that burden on his sleeve, which is why I love those moments where Zach and Cody weren't messing things up for a change, so he could actually just do his job, or help out London with her driving and operating the Prindle, which is still what I call it, thanks to Moseby. That may seem small to some, but the true power of characters is affecting the people watching them, which is true for everyone on this list, but none more so than number one. But before we get there, let's bring in some honorable mentions.
I'll waive the fee, madam. I understand what it's like to have to look at something utterly repulsive.
Say what you will, but for my money, few characters are as special, as memorable, and as awesome as the man himself, Ron Stoppable. Remember how I said Oscar Proud basically had the perfect voice actor to play his part? Well, Will Friedle, also known as Eric Matthews to some, is even better in this. He balances being goofy and geeky so well with the emotional extremes of the character. We've seen loyal friends before, but nothing like Ron. This man is unathletic, for the most part, he has his moments, not the smartest cookie in the jar, and is understandably scared out of his mind of half the things he has to face, but he does it anyway, because he's always got Kim's back. That alone would make him an easy pick for a list like this, but what's more is the fact that he could have actually died 100 different times on their missions, but never quits. Even in the first movie when his family moves and literally lives several time zones away, he still makes it out there. He only temporarily quit at that point because he had to. There are plenty of sidekicks and side characters that the main hero would be perfectly fine without, but Ron represents a backbone for Kim, a shoulder for her to lean on that can carry her through even the most perilous of missions, and a friend that's always there for her, even for all the normal drama. I think Kim Possible is the single best show Disney Channel has ever made, and a big reason for that is how all the characters function so well as a team, all working together to make the show better. But Ron always stood out to me for the reasons I mentioned, and his unbreakable spirit is something special, something that still influences me today. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, help me out with the likes, subs, and share it all over social media. I'm gonna try to get the female version of this list done before the end of the week, but I've been killing myself trying to get the right edits, the right sequences, and most importantly, the right words. I think I've got something, then it feels off, then I delete everything, I don't know. It's way easier to talk about, guys. But it will get done, along with the Girl Meets World review on Friday night. Until then...
The Prindle.
Are Are you referring to the shift lever that says PRNDL?
I'm not a child, Moseby. I know how to spell prindle.
It is not something you spell. It is a gear shift. The letters stand for park, reverse, neutral, drive, and low.
You're making me nervous with all this technical talk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't we just relax? We'll turn on the radio. Would you like am or film?